Okay, so there are only two stage boxes and a wall connection point. We'll talk through that quick. These floor boxes were put in at the beginning, and they have all these connections for the organ. The organ requires 6 inputs,
Oh,
like for all the different things it
okay.
can do. So they wired those in. They also have wiring for a piano, which is the piano on this side. That allows us to, that also is getting connected to the Quick Mix.
Okay.
So that piano goes directly into Quick Mix, so they can use that in the traditional service. There are connections for choir mics, and I believe those go back to that back um, thing to plug into the mixer. We have not utilized them because we have not put a choir on this side because we moved the organ here. So, and then there are also 2 choir returns. Those are for those monitor speakers I was talking about. Those I think are powered by that amp, so you can plug
Okay.
that into a speaker. Again, we've never used that.
Okay.
And a few outlets right there for plugging this stuff in. That gets pinched ever so slightly. So there's this floor box here. There is a floor box underneath the lectern. And all it has is power, input for the lectern mic, which is the mic that's up, not here right now, that gets plugged in there. And then there is a network connection for PC video. So in here, someone took this apart and left it taken apart, is the microphone connection for the microphone that goes up there. And I don't even know where the microphone went. The microphone has disappeared. And, oh, a lighting cable. Who put that there? Anyway, this is the piece I wanted to share with you, is another one of the Crestron devices like we had at the core. So this will take a laptop, HDMI, convert it to network, which we can plug into the PC video here, and then we could do a laptop presentation from right here to put the video up on the screens.
Got it.
I think this is unplugged because people are not using it, and sometimes this lectern gets moved for various funerals or Christmas services.
Yep.
And so that it probably, everything has probably just been stacked in here.
Does this one, the audio go through HDMI?
I believe this one, it does.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, the whole system here is audio over HDMI, which is nice. And for some reason, we could not do that at the core with how we designed it, because we never really designed a multiple HDMI input because of the triple widescreen. That's initially why. And I think that was an oversight. We probably should have put that in. I don't think we anticipated like presentations at the core. We just anticipated church in the triple widescreen, and it's a specific format, so you're gonna have to do everything through ProPresenter. But later on, we're like, why don't we just turn the side projectors off and do it on the center projector there? So I think that's why we never put that in. That was probably an oversight. So that is that. There is a microphone, and I don't know who took it and where it went, but there's a microphone here that gets plugged in to use for lectern readings. We don't usually do that because the pastors do this, but if you had kids reading something for a confirmation service or graduation service, you could plug this in and they would be heard at the lectern. That is an option. And then over here, along the back wall is kind of the third floor box, but it's not in the floor. It's behind the drums. So this is where we have multiple connections. Like here's the 6 organ ones. When the organ used to be on the side. So these are the connections to plug the organ in here, which can happen. And then these 2, Ethernet and Dante, are those 2 cables in the back closet I showed you. So we're able to connect Dante in here because we can get it to that switch. And then similarly, Ethernet, which is the white one I have in there, and I think that's network connection, if I'm remembering correctly. And then there was a box put in here. We have the piano. So this piano also similarly goes in here so that it can go to the Q-SYS core unit and be used in traditional mode, in quick mix mode.
Okay.
So that's why it goes in directly here. And there were some other connections here. There's a monitor connection we don't use. Some other stuff we don't use. There are 2 other network connections that used to be to the back for digital audio. I repurposed those lines because they're network connections that run to the booth. So I think I have Ethernet and Ableton something here. I labeled it. Oh, the snake for the audio mixer to connect to the snake. I used one of them for that digital connection. And then the other one is Ableton Internet. So that's a wired connection for that guy. And I don't remember what the last one was. So I just repurposed those network lines because they run to the back booth. And I needed some stuff to be able to communicate. So I wish I had another 5 of them because I'm always finding things to plug in to talk back there in some way, shape, or form. But these were put in at the beginning, I think, of the building. So yeah, that's it, I think, for that.
Okay.
And then the next thing would be probably the rack. So in the back little cubby here, we have a couple things. This is more related to the music, but at both campuses, we have an iPad for musicians to use. So that's usually plugged in up here. I have 4 lights that are the same at the core. We use these we decided we wanted to spice things up for special services, Good Friday, Christmas, Easter. So I have 4 lights that I place around the front here with power cables and lighting cables to hook them all together. That will hook down into the computer here, which I'll show you in a minute, but I just have been storing these up on top here. These could get stored somewhere else. They don't have to be up here. But these are just used seasonally for special services. We pull them out and program them there. This is where we ran some of our stuff for the new microphones. We just punched it through the wall. That was Mr. Joel. He helped us with that. And then we put our microphones back here. One thing that's important to know, I try to remind our team leads about this, but these are all rechargeable. But one of them is not recharging. This microphone back here does not have a light on. So the contacts either need to be made, and if it's not working, these batteries sometimes just need to be reseated. So these are the Shure microphones with the Shure rechargeable batteries, which are awesome. And sometimes these guys probably just get sitting in there stale for so long. Kind of got to re-scrape those ends. These batteries, I'm not sure the life. I've heard of some people at the core saying that they'll leave their packs on and the pack will almost be dead. So I don't know what the life cycle of these, but these batteries at some point will probably need to be replaced. I mean, they've been going at the core for 5 years or more, some of those batteries. And they're still they got some good life in them yet. So at some point, these guys will probably they just need to be monitored and will need to be replaced at some point. So if I just reseed that battery there, I should see a light come on there. Now it's charging. Sometimes it can also flash yellow, which means it's not connected right. Something's wrong. It can't give it a charge, which I'll play with the battery and make sure it's connected. So those guys charge there. Pastor Tim used to ask us to try and keep all the stuff back here behind here, because people, it would start to get too far out and people would be like, oh, it just looks like a mess back there. So I've been trying to encourage that. This thing just gets cluttered with so much stuff. So try to keep this area clean. Inside the drawers, there are miscellaneous, all kinds of stuff that needs to be gone through. Spare earphones, batteries, guitar strings. We do have like the DI box for a cello or another instrument in here too. So be sure to just go through that stuff. And it probably just needs to be organized, some stuff tossed, all that stuff. We do have some deoxit here in case you need to deoxidize some connections, some cables. If you're getting a lot of crackling, that can
Okay.
help with that. All right, so then down here is our rack. So what we have is our Ableton ClickTrack computer here. It's connected in to Dante. It's wired into the network. We have a USB hub down here. And then everything is packed into this nice rack as best as I could. So similarly, you're going to find a Digico unit, which is the same as at the core campus. A bunch of snakes are bringing it over to this side where we can plug our instruments, our drums, and everything in. And we have the Aviom unit here similarly to the core, where the first 4 are set to bidirectional and can broadcast out to the musicians. So then they can control it there. It brings it back on the network to here and then broadcasts it to them. This Digico, with how we designed it, we had to put an Aviom card in here with how this was all set up. So we do not have outputs here. We had to swap out that bottom bank with an Aviom card to make the Aviom work. I think at the core, it was that one little device. I said, this is an Aviom. I'm not sure what it does again.
Yeah.
I think this is the solution we had to come up with here to make it work. So we do not have outputs here. This is why the Christmas service is so hard.
Here?
Here, because I don't have outputs for the monitor speakers and for the main speakers on this snake, because this unit, it's in the closet. The other piece that goes in there is in the closet back there. So I had to come up with an Aviom solution. The whole Christmas thing is a whole different mess. So we'll have to figure that out yet. So that is that. And actually, I might need to talk with whoever fills in for me, because we did end up putting in a Dante Aviom device here. So that might actually have bypassed this card, that we may not need this anymore. So we might be able to put back the original output piece that's in that closet. This part unscrews and you can plug it back in. There is a configuration to that at the Digico mixer. That might be an Aero AV type of thing to make sure it's done right. So yeah, that could be possible. So that would be another little project for the next person to dig into. I should probably tell the projects and things that the next person needs to work on, so that the AI can document here all the next things to look into. So inside here, I do have a little USB hub. It like pinches in real perfectly in there.
Oh yeah.
And it just allows for a few USB things. This white cable here goes down to the bottom down there. This is where we plug in our lighting device, our DMX controller, which I actually took over the core, which I wanted to test it over there, and I did test it. It doesn't work with DMXs. I wanted to test that, but it would work with ShowBuddy, which is installed on this computer. So I can grab it and bring it back, and that just plugs into that USB, and then from there it's a lighting connection, which then goes out to the lights.
Okay.
So that's where I put that down there.
So the ShowBuddy software talks to that box that'll be plugged into that white cable,
and that translated into lighting information for the lights and tells the lights what to do. Yep. So that's the little controller.
So there's no other lighting controller in the rack like there is at the core?
No, because there are no lights here. They're just physical lights we set down and plug in. So it's a very simple way of doing it.
There is.
Yeah, there's like the house, there's like the room lights and stuff, which is the button back there, and there is a little controller for that. So yeah, I can talk about that back there too. Yep.
Okay.
On the front side of this rack, these blank panels can come off. This is how I reach in there to do stuff. There's a number of stuff that's just really tight because stuff slides in, overlaps a little bit, so cables are kind of zigzagging in there, but I wanted to fit it all in here. So we have 4 Shure microphones here, and one antenna combiner for those microphones. these do not go to Quick Mix. These go straight to the mixer. So you cannot use these 4 microphones on Quick Mix mode. You have to switch to console mode if you want to use them.
So they go into Digico on the back?
On the back side,
which
and then
turns it into Digital Snake over to the board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if there is a funeral or a wedding where you want more than 1 microphone, you need to get an audio person and switch it over to contemporary mode, because we only have 1 handheld on Quick Mix. 1 handheld and 2 pastor mics on Quick Mix.
Yep.
So if there's any need for more than that, we have to switch over to console mode. We have to have someone run the board.
Okay.
So we'll do that for like the kids' chapel if we have the band. We can't do that in Quick Mix mode. We have to switch over to this being the controlled and getting the stuff into the console from there.
Okay.
I put a nice little drawer right in between here to separate it. These are in-ear monitor wireless units. And then our Aviom, here's that same Aviom module. So maybe we do need that. I don't know. We might need that thing there. That was something else I had to really understand and research, is do we need that Aviom module on the Digico Snake? So now that we switched to Dante on the Aviom unit. Didn't get that far. Another task that needs to be done, I had it in the budget originally, was we need an antenna combiner for these wireless in-ear monitors.
Okay.
We have that at the core where it sends it to that half dome on the wall. Right. We need an antenna combiner here because it is recommended that if you have more than 2, you need an antenna combiner. And musicians have commented about how there's static in certain spots. And that's because we have too many antennas in one spot. So we need to get a combiner for this to help manage the frequencies and be able to broadcast them cleanly. Okay. So that is also another to-do for the next person, is get an antenna combiner installed in here, similar to this guy, but for the wireless in-ear monitors. Okay. And then another panel here with some opening that I could just get cables in and out, in the guitar unit. And a USB also converter here for the foot pedal, the Looptimus, to control the tracks, which goes up to the computer. It goes into that USB hub. So this computer, this is a USB control thing for the computer there.
For Ableton?
For Ableton. So people can start and stop tracks and stuff right with their feet.
Okay. Is there one of those at the core?
There is one also at the core plugged in. They don't use it as much at the core, but it is there. It is.
How do they start and stop tracks then at the core?
Usually the keyboardist, and then the same thing will happen here. The keyboardist just reaches up and does it on the computer itself.
Okay.
But this is an option for if the keyboardist is not comfortable with that, the team lead or whoever's up here can also play tracks right there.
All right.
So that's called a Looptimus. So that's basically the main stuff here.